Hey guys, it's BlockchainBrad. Today I'm speaking with the CEO of Quarkchain once again as an exclusive update for you so you can know exactly what they're doing of late. Kichao, thank you very much for your time today.
Yeah, my great pleasure. Is very happy to meet you guys again.
Likewise, mate. It's always an honor to speak with someone so humble and leading out something arguably that's going to change things for the blockchain. Now, today, as I mentioned, it's an update. Let's get started straight into this, Ki. Now, your MainNet. Let's explore that. That's something that a lot of people have been talking about. Give us an update on what's happening and where you're at with the MainNet release.
So we are planning to launch our mainnet at the end of next month, which is April the 30th. Right now, we are at the stage of our final testnet, which there are hundreds of community members that are helping us to test the network. And also, we are hiring auditing companies that help review our codes and discover common issues and also security issues. And this will take roughly 1 month of work. And so once that is done, then we will pretty confident to launch our mainnet next month.
Okay, so to be clear, you're doing all the due diligence right now with a team of qualified developers, I would assume. Can you tell us a bit about how you chose these people? Are these people in the actual Quarkchain team, or have you outsourced some support as you go through and explore the mainnet functionalities, all the code, and ensure it's going to be ready?
Yes, so you mean how to choose my team and how to choose the partners?
Well, more so just how you're going through the process of debugging, going through and making sure everything's nice and clean, nice and ready for the mainnet release. Who are the people involved in that process? Are they inside the team or they are also outside that you're outsourcing? Talk us through that process.
Yes, so right now the team in Quarkchain is mainly responsible for development new features and also fix bugs. And for the bugs discoveries, actually we first resort to our community members, which they will report a lot of, for example, issues when they, for example, join the network, or some issues when they're mining. And second is that we rely on our code auditing companies. Actually, we hire 4 companies, different companies. They are good in different aspects in terms of security, blockchain consensus, and some of them, they will even try to attack our network and to discover the issues that we may not be aware of when they are developing. And so to make sure that when the mainnet launch, all these no issues will be fixed, and then we have a great confidence in the quality of the code.
Right, okay. So obviously that's related to the GitHub as well. And I would assume you have a private group, is that right, Ki, where you interact with certain parties to make sure that you have a good quality of resources and people that can give you feedback all the time on your code?
Actually, all the things is open sourced. So, for example, all the issues defined by auditing company, they file the issues on the GitHub, and so you can see there's recently there are a lot of this kind of issues that are filed in the GitHub public repository, and then we also we have pushing a lot of code to address all these issues. So all these procedures is transparent.
Got it. So transparent, all on the GitHub, all available for those who are devs out there wanting to know more about what is going on with Quarkchain. Now, how is the code going? How is the quality of the planning towards the mainnet? Are you happy with what's the progress right now?
Yeah, right now we found some issues. Actually, a lot of issues we probably have but we probably postpone it, and so haven't address it, and later we just forget and to address because, for example, the network environment or some environment is different, and so they point out these issues, and then we also explore the existing, for example, Bitcoin or Ethereum code, and to improve existing code by borrowing their mature practice. Second, we also find some issues, and and then of existing, like for example, Ethereum code, like Bitcoin code, and then perform similar attack by using our network. And then we found, oh, actually, this attack can also apply to other networks, maybe Ethereum Classic, even though we haven't tried because that will create further concern. So we want to confirm all this before we actually contact with other teams and fix this problem. So this is some kind of common issues.
Got it. Okay. So obviously, you're busy with that. I would assume that most of your team are busy also with trying to prepare for the mainnet. So can you give us some clear dates as well to what to expect next month? When is this mainnet planned exactly, or is it a general date?
It's exact date that we set our deadline. That is March the 30th.
Okay.
So
it is this month.
No, sorry, March, no, April, sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
So April 30.
Yeah, 30. Yeah.
Okay.
And then all these issues we found pretty we can just quickly fix that blocking issue right now. So we are glad that this time we should be able to achieve in great confidence.
Got it. Okay, so you're on track. April 30th, just to clarify, for the mainnet release. Now, I want to talk to you about the mainnet with regard to the blockchain ecosystem more generally. Now, in that context, why does your mainnet matter? What sets you apart, Key? Why is this important?
Yeah, I think that one major thing that we bring is to provide more besides scalability, but also flexibility so that we can have different, I would say, shards or chains with different consensus or maybe ledger, transaction, or the token economies. They can work together so that a blockchain that contains different heterogeneous chains that can enjoy, first, security of the whole network, and second, the cross-shard transaction capabilities. I think that will have great impact to the current blockchain community.
Okay, so just want to backtrack now. Cross-sharding, that's not something that every sharding technology talks about. Talk us through what that actually means, though, in the context of perhaps cross-blockchain, cross-interaction, cross-collaborations.
Yes. So basically, a user can perform a transaction that can modify the ledgers of multiple shards in a safe and efficient way. When I mean safe, that means that this transaction either will succeed as a whole or fail as a whole, so that we won't either create new money or lose some money. And this is very important for the blockchain security. And efficient, that means that as the number of shards increases, then the network cross-shard transaction capabilities is also increases. And that is, we can also using our cross-shard efficient technology, cross-shard transaction technology to achieve we call it linear scale in terms of number of parts. And so I think with these features, this will bring a lot of difference. So for example, when people originally want to perform cross-chain transaction, heavily centralized exchange, and they need a lot of steps. But right now with cross-chain transaction, it just have a few steps, and it will just all the things is just all the steps are decentralized. And so I think we are really excited about these technologies. I'm looking forward to see how it will evolve. And last, but probably not the least, yes, is that from user experience, they probably never aware, oh, there's cross-shard transaction or in-shard transaction. Both of them enjoy the same security level. And from a user's perspective, they are actually the same. Just given the address, they say, oh, this address is in-shard or cross-shard, or either this address is in different shard smart contract, and all the things just automatically being done by the network.
Right. So obviously people need to know more, because that's quite a lot of information, especially for those not tech savvy. Please make sure you go to their website, look into what their sharding technology is about, and then look further into it with the updates, especially these cross-sharding updates that Key is now talking about. Now, essentially, just to recap though on what sharding is, that's essentially about improving efficiency, reducing the overall use of all the nodes to a smaller number. Is that right? In the splitting of the node structure.
So it will also improve the throughput of the network transactions.
Right.
And also it allows to have a lot of small nodes to come up together to become we call a cluster and work together to improve the whole network performance. So for example, our test nets, we have roughly during peak time have more than 200 clusters in the network. Mm-hmm. Which is considerable numbers for testnet, because a lot of, for example, Depot's consensus network, probably they only have hundreds or maybe less than 50 nodes that produce block in the network.
Right, so you have 200, that's going to be significant for low latency, high throughput when you hit the mainnet. Now, do you find with all of the research you've done, with all of the actual code, are you one of the leading infrastructural layer 1 solutions right now for this Key? Because clearly you're moving towards trying to, into your mainnet, be something of a force for real applications, for real dApps, for real devs.
Yes, of course. Like we really believe we are building this cutting edge technologies to address a lot of issues in the blockchain, not only in terms of like the apps, but also in terms of the community and consensus. We always see some voice from these communities, and they see, oh, this is something that completely different from what they see. Especially, I feel the biggest problem in the current blockchain community is regarding the dilution of the consensus community and, for example, hash power. Like, for example, different blockchains, they have different their communities, and even the blockchain community is small, and further different blockchains further split this community to be further small.
Right.
And for example, the Litecoin, after the Bitcoins was born, Litecoin starts and modify a bit of Bitcoin code,
right,
and create their community and also their mining community. So Bitcoin community and Litecoin community, they are separated. And now Ethers, with the rise of Ether, now we have come up with another mining community called GPU mining community, which is also quite different with others. And so you see, as this technology evolves, we have separate communities and further dilute this consensus. And with further, for example, with the hard fork from BCH, this makes the hash power and also the consensus further be diluted. This results in severe security issue. For example, right now, the 51% attack will be much smaller than 51% because of this diluted hash power of different blockchains.
Right. Okay. And that makes a lot of sense, because obviously you want to increase security and reduce the risk. We even saw in the past with hashing wars, a lot of drama has happened as we've seen unfold in previous iterations of blockchain. So what you're saying is you're reducing the security. You're increasing the security, reducing the risk to make sure that people can trust your ecosystem.
Yeah, especially these heterogeneous chains, they are able to be, I would say, be prospered in a single blockchain, bigger blockchain community, and enjoy I would say the benefit of the growth of this community, not just
right.
Yeah.
Now, how is the Quarkchain community going? Because obviously you've alluded to the imperative of a strong community. You've also had one of the few predominant projects emerge in previous years. So you have that first market move right now, that advantage. Are you capitalizing on that, and are you strengthening the community?
Yes. So I think there's different communities in the blockchain. There's mining communities. There are developer communities. Developer community comes from blockchain itself, developer and DApp developer, and also users. And so, for example, one example is that right now our network can support different mining algorithms, which means that GPU and even Etherhash or different algorithms, and also in the future ASIC and also different algorithms can simultaneously working in our blockchains that have a lot of interest from different mining communities, because originally they just work on one chain, and now all of them can mine from us, and they're very happy to see how we are able to support different mining algorithms in the future.
Okay.
And this is something we really feel excited about.
Right, so there's mining flexibility there, that's what you're alluding to. And let's go now though to the more open concept of community. Is that robust? Is the Quarkchain team really supporting the evolution and development of the community so that the ecosystem can flourish?
Yes, of course. The beginning, because we're using mostly proof of work consensus, that will be part of the benefit for the mining communities, different mining communities, I would say. And then next step, we will basically to support different kind of like virtual machines and ledgers. And so that we are actually planning to add more shards every year. And so that we will encourage those blockchain developers, public blockchain developers themselves, and also app developers, all of them can work on the same blockchain. Even they have, for example, different thoughts about, for example, the ledger model, consensus, or even token economies. And we encourage the diversified community, the blockchain community in Quarkchain.
Got it. Now, in terms of enterprise, or let's discuss more the privacy aspect. Many of the agents, whether they be devs or enterprises who want to use a blockchain key, they want privacy, they demand it, they need it, and they want to work obviously in the public blockchain domain, but they want to do so according to their terms. So are you going to facilitate that with means in which they can have permission components, or they can have control of their data, but utilize your ecosystem?
Actually, so there's probably two questions. One is how this, for example, maybe some specialized blockchain, how to join our ecosystem, such to preserve chains. So for example, right now, suppose I have some Bitcoin, I want to do some privacy preserve transactions. I have probably go to centralized exchange, buy some Zcash or Monero, and then withdraw the money to their blockchains, do this kind of transaction, and then once the transaction back, go back to the exchange, and then take back the final Bitcoin.
It's quite a complicated process, Key, what you're talking about for that way.
Yeah. So for us, like we are planning to create a shards that support the privacy feature directly, which means that a user is able to, for example, send the user's token, either QKC or any else, and native token, because we support multi-native token, and send to the chain directly. And this is called shard transaction. And once it is done, then the user can perform on all this transaction on that shard locally with privacy preserved features. And once it's done, then it will send back to the cryptocurrency back to the original shard. So now the user has some tokens that is already being processed by privacy.
I see. And so the token itself is autonomous and encoded for privacy through the privacy preserving mechanism, and it's done more seamlessly. Is that what you're basically saying?
The token itself actually is not aware of the privacy, but it support different ledger in different shards, and those ledger and transactions will aware of these privacy protocols and will put this protocol results into these blockchains,
Right. So essentially, it's automated privacy preserving mechanisms for the user, so it's easier to do, and you don't have to go and do the more complex approach.
Yes.
Okay, that's obviously going to advantage those who want to engage in your ecosystem. Now let's talk about MainNet Singularity. That's something that you've built in. Some are suggesting, that I've read through information that it's trying to pick up where Ethereum 2.0 is also trying to address this. Talk us through state sharding, why your approach really matters with MainNet singularity for Quarkchain.
Yes. I would say like Ethereum 2.0, its main plan is to achieve two main features. One is called proof of stake, which is they call Casper, and second is called sharding. So right now we are actually working towards like this state sharding and supporting Ethereum-like ledger. So the ending mainnet which we are going to launch months will looks like a Ethereum network, but with much greater capabilities. But even a lot of users may not be aware the sharding is working in the underlying public blockchain. And this is our starting point. And also since we are flexible in different consensus, which means that we are not restricting to the proof of stake consensus that Ethereum that is stick to. So Ethereum 2.0 has to stick to their POS in order to be enabled to their sharding technology. But here we are much more flexible. And so this will be our starting point. That's why we call singularity, because singularity is the star of the universe, according to Big Bang theory. So then once that is mature, well established, then we'll move towards more richer features, both in terms of virtual consensus, virtual machines, for example, privacy preserve shards, and also maybe deposit-like shards that can quickly acknowledge finalized users' transactions.
Right. But how can we trust that though, Key, in what you're saying? Because obviously right now it sounds quite theoretical that you can expand, and you mentioned, that analogy of the universe and the flexibility and bound in this plan. But obviously I would assume that even Ethereum are trying to do something similar where they want to also be quite flexible. So what sets you apart from them in that sense? You mentioned their proof of stake, but they also have Casper. They want to evolve that. Are you doing something that's just one step ahead? And if you are, talk us through that. Bless you.
Thank you. So yeah, so I think right now, according to my knowledge, because the proof of stake is highly tight coupled with their sharding technologies. So they finally like change, for example, a shard from proof of stake to others, and also Ethereum 2.0 because like they have a mechanism to support, like for example, different like a transaction or ledger model, and also token economies. Probably they never imagined that because they just want to be a better Ethereum, but we want to be a better blockchain universe.
Right.
So yeah, so here we have our dedicated consensus, which called boson consensus. So that is basically how we are able to achieve this feature, and we are also pretty confident in we are quite different and can do much more than what 2.0 would aims to.
Got it. So essentially, in a nutshell, Ethereum 2.0, proof of stake, and then bolted on solutions essentially to try and improve what their outcomes. You're more of the built in right from the outset, trying to really build upon the knowledge of sharding to make yourselves more performant, more efficient, and certainly more with a higher throughput and lower latency. So I think that's probably the best way to explain it. Now, with regard to multi-native tokens, Key, let's discuss that. What's so unique about multi-token approaches?
So the reason why we motivate this multi-native token is we found actually the core idea is that the ledger model itself can directly store this multiple native token directly. That is different from current Ethereum account model, which is fixed and cannot easily be upgraded to support new, for example, new data in their ledger. And so that's the limitation of the Ethereum say the ledger, the data, and also see Ethereum actually is moving to also improve it using. Happen we have found that this is also similar to the data technology that we are currently using. Mm-hmm. And actually, I also have a like from Vitaly for that. And so, but well, now because we are running much faster, and so, while Ethereum can only support like called ERC20 type smart contract token, they have a lot of restrictions because all these operations of this ERC20 must happen in one smart contract, mm-hmm. which is it is slow because it cannot be concurrently processed in different shards or different smart contracts. And for us, our native token is purely stored on different shards and can be concurrently processed. That is much more efficient. Mm-hmm. And also, I can hardly, because this smart contract is tightly coupled to the transaction model of a shard. For example, the Ethereum virtual machine, this kind of tree model, and it's hard to move its transaction to be aware by another shard that adopt different transaction or ledger model. And so this create a lot of limitations. For example, for privacy tokens, they have their ledger and transaction model that's different with ERC20, and they have no idea what ERC20 token looks like. So in that case,
right.
Yeah, with multiple nifty token, we are able to easily have different shards to build this consensus of the tokens and perform transactions more efficiently and with more features.
I see. So essentially, you're moving to that consensus model for that native that use and application for the token, rather than just be that ERC20, which really stifles what you're saying, that innovation and potential. Now, I want to address this in the context of the potential for ecosystems, because we talk a lot about Ethereum when we speak, Key. So in this respect, do you think that you can surpass Ethereum? I've been quite serious about this because you know a lot about Ethereum. You've been in this space for a while. You know what you want to achieve. You're in SF most of the time. So is this the objective? Do you want to be a really serious force globally, as is Ethereum right now? Because it requires a lot of community, a lot of branding, a lot of dev support. Can Quarkchain actually do something like that?
So actually, Ethereum, for example, as I just mentioned, like supporting this like sharding featuring, like Ethereum is our starting goal. Definitely, we want to do more because both in terms of privacy or both in terms of depots or maybe other features, maybe identity, or maybe others that require like new models of ledgers and also token economies. So I think Ethereum definitely that is doing a great job in the blockchain, but we hope with our technology we can easily, I would say, bring Ethereum technologies like virtual machine or this to more users. Not only the existing blockchain cryptographic users, but rather more people outside the world, outside the small world, blockchain world, can be rely on us because we have great scalability, we have great flexibility, or maybe also strong security.
Right.
Something that we achieve rather than replace Ethereum.
I hear what you're saying. So it's not
this one, right?
Sure. Sorry to interrupt. So it's not a case of competition in this respect. It's really enhancement, building upon the frameworks previously to make things better, more performant, as we were talking about. Now, in that context, let's explore the real value, and that is mainstream adoption, user adoption, inclusion of enterprise and the institutional investor, for example, who's wanting to invest in blockchain development for their ecosystems. Is that happening, or is this momentum building? As the CEO of this company, surely you would know. Are we getting closer, especially with MainNet coming, where we can start to see evidence of the worlds of blockchain and the real world of business melding?
Yes, Actually, we talked to a lot of like enterprise customers. They are some are building their consortium or private blockchain. So for example, I know for example like JP Coin, JP Morgan, they're building JP Coin. And actually, I'm not sure what kind of blockchain technology they're building. But for a lot of this medium-sized or small-sized enterprise, they are looking forward to some kind of mature blockchain technology that they can use to address their issues. And so a lot of them, they choose Ethereum, mainly because Ethereum is widely used.
Right.
And even though from our viewpoint, there are a lot of things still in a very immature stage, but they have been proven by their Ethereum mainnet. And so with our mainnet launch, that will be a straight proof of, and also with the evolution of the Quarkchain mainnet, we will prove that maturity, a better proof of maturity of our network. And so this will have a great encouragement of a lot of enterprise business because they want to see something that is live, not just say, yeah.
Got it. Now, pre-mainnet though, Key, you know how productive and how the quality of this code and is already. So that means that as you build out to mainnet, you would be gearing with your whole team to prepare for the potential of inclusion with these parties that you mentioned. So let's get real with this. What is in the pipeline, Key? What is to come with regard to the unfolding of the mainnet in an enterprise context? Give us a really clear update so that we can know what to expect in the applicability, the real world applicability of Quarkchain. So it's not just a buzzword. It's not just, this theoretical concept of technology that can possibly be for the real world. We want to know how this actually happens. And if indeed utility tokens are something that these companies are willing to take part in.
Yes. So actually, I cannot disclose a lot of these details because this NDA. But one thing I can clearly tell that we are actually developing our Go version of Quarkchain, not just right now Python program, but Go version of Quarkchain, and already developed this for months, and which have already been tested by some enterprise partners, and they are using this to experiment and also to test based on their, I would say, business model.
So is that an exclusive thing that's planned? Because Go is quite a generic, quite a broad-reaching developing language, Key. So is this going to really enable you to build your own ecosystem and to become obviously profitable, develop revenue? Is that all part of this?
Yeah, that definitely. Like with Go Quarkchain, then we have more efficient blockchain, like for example, we can process transaction even more, worry about the CPU limits. And we have already internal testing this some performance there, and it shows very promising results. Even though we are already delivering, pretty amazing results these days, but that's just beginning.
Okay. So let's go back a bit though. So you said businesses, you can't, because of NDAs, you can't tell us exactly who, but I want to dig a bit deeper. Are these big companies? Are these substantial ones? You tend, from when we had conversations before, not to really talk to those mid-range. You'll tend to talk about with those bigger companies. So not to FOMO, but let's just get real. Are these substantial? And is this going to really have a big impact in Quarkchain once we see these releases?
Yeah, of course, there will be a very big impact, and also we are also closing several deals with these big organizations. So yeah, we will see.
I'm looking forward to seeing those, so make sure you let me know so we can have a chat at those times. Now, obviously, I want to talk to you about the token for one moment. Now, there's conjecture at the moment when we see STOs, a lot of narrative, a lot of talk right now, and debate. Now, what is your position on this, Key, with regard to utility? SEC have been involved. They've been really trying to explore the potentials of utility tokens. Are you confident that the utility token model, particularly given you know well a lot about the US context, are actually going to be viable and that they're scalable? And are they in fact aligned with the growth of the economies that are building, especially with Quarkchain, so that there's a truly scalable nature to the utility token?
Yeah, I think this is kind of like non-technical, but also maybe compliance or some other topics that actually Quarkchain have maybe because Quarkchain token is defined as a utility token and use it in gas of the network, and our further purpose is to provide the security of the network because right now we are using this token proof of stake work, which is our new consensus, which require people to stake before mining, and then hope that we can bring stronger security to the network. So I think how to define utility is a very open question. And what is different with security token, and even SEC and CTFC, the FTC have different definition. Even they argue with each other.
Yes, it's true. But I wanted to get to the point more so, sorry to interrupt, but clearly Quarkchain represents a utility token. It literally is the core or the nexus of your whole economy so that it can operate. Without it, you arguably wouldn't exist. But the question more so is, the narrative right now and the debate is in discussions of the value of utility, whether it can be viable for enterprises to adopt it, because obviously there's a requirement to interact with tokens when the enterprise engage. So are you finding from your knowledge that there's a willingness for enterprise to utilize tokens like the Quarkchain token as they start to do business? Or is it indeed something that they are looking more towards securitization of blockchains? Because obviously, it's an interesting point that's being raised right now.
Yes, I think, to my knowledge, like a lot of companies that I am talking with, especially those traditional companies, they are exploring in these utility directions of tokens. Sometimes their, I would say, ecosystem or business model, and then so that it can be much easier to, for example, close their maybe transactions and make a lot of, for example, build up credibilities of the network users, so that they can save a lot of efforts by identify which customers is more valuable. So I think there's a lot of it that's going on. Unfortunately, there's no, we say, well-established utility model, because there's still open space, unlike maybe the gas model which is well-defined. But we are closely watching in this area, and we believe this should have one of two applications that once that shows the killer applications in terms of utility that would make a lot of things different. Right.
Okay. And obviously the security space is one to watch on the other side of the coin. No pun intended. But I wanted to also talk to you about within the context when we talk about utility. Obviously, we want to see token velocity become prominent, meaning that there is that clear correlation between your voucher of value, your token, and the potential for that to grow. So for that to happen, you really do need to have clear extraction from the circulating supply as the enterprise engage. So wanted to ask you two things. Is Quarkchain planning to make it easy and seamless for enterprise interests to engage with your token, or perhaps even using fiat? Is there going to be back-end conversions? Is there going to be support internally so that it's easy for businesses to engage and use Quarkchain?
You mean stablecoin?
Well, in the sense of, how you do business. So talk us through that, because people really need to know, how is it that you as a service, as a system, because obviously you want to build upon this as products and services, not just be the open protocol underneath, which is what you are. And for enterprises to engage with you, how easy are you going to make that key so it's not stressful for companies to work with Quarkchain?
So I think I think one is for example, definitely people have very clear way to settlement, and then And then I think stablecoin definitely is one features. And in addition, we we can support like stablecoin as our native token, which means that people can use stablecoin to do much richer features than right now popular ERC20 stablecoin.
Mm-hmm.
And we are looking forward to see more, I would say, opportunities of business model surrounding a native token type of this stablecoin.
Mm-hmm.
And then, for example, people can use stablecoin to pay gas or to run a smart contract without buying maybe QKC or any other tokens.
Got it. Right. So the stable coin is going to be essentially like a digital fiat in that respect. Like it's something that's trusted, it's controlled, it's not going to have that problematic volatility we've seen. But I want to move now more though to your token again, because there's always functionally a securitized element to the form of the utility, because it is a utility token. There's no question of that. But for the lay speculator, for those engaged right now in the cryptocurrency space, they're always looking for the potential for your token to increase in its voucher of value. So in that respect, talk us through how that can happen, Key. How can this evolve as your ecosystem grows as a utility, given that the circulating supply will need to be affected as your ecosystem builds? How can the scarcity improve as your ecosystem develops?
I feel this is like I would say the value of the token. I think I mean the utility value of the token will be increases because like the whole network will for example when we had more for example shards, then different shards they need kind of QSC as kind of a bootstrapping tokens on kind of tokens to secure the network as entrance to maybe and to for example produce the block in the shards. And as this kind of shards become more and more, definitely they can have their native token to produce, and then definitely will require more utility values of this QKCs on multiple shards rather than just existing a single blockchain.
Right. So essentially, it all comes down to use. You know, as more parties use this token, that's going to essentially remove it from its circulating supply and thus increase its scarcity.
I would say they improve the utility value of the token.
Okay. All right. Because I mean, I don't mean to push this, but it's so important people understand. Because obviously, from the outside perspective, they're trying to understand how do we grapple with the increasing value of a utility token. Because otherwise, you know, we beg the question would need to be asked, what's the point of regarding it as something of increasing value if we don't understand it? So thanks for making that clear. Now, mining on the mainnet, profitability, let's discuss that. Lots are happening with regard to mining for you.
So right now, I'm sorry.
So profitability, mining, there's a lot going on. How can someone profit in that mining area of Quarkchain?
So actually, for the mining, people don't actually for every blockchain they have kind of like profitability because all the blockchain they have this auto-adjusted difficulties, so that the profitability will reach kind of market level, and this is because we can say we can provide much more profitability compared to other blockchains because it will automatically adjust it because this market's hands. Well, what we are basically different is that. So first, we will adopt the total supply model, which will be up to 10 billion.
Okay.
Which means we don't have inflation. And then so that will have some different sense in terms of money. And second is that we are also be able to have this supporting different mining algorithms and pools, and that's also very attractive to existing miners. So a lot of these mining pools and platforms, they are also actually discuss with us to how to collaborate.
Right. Okay. So there's obviously, you planned out this to have, limited or no inflation, have a model that's really going to be profitable for the miners. So that's clear. Now, one of the plans you've built in is called the Guardian plan. That's a new concept. It's been advertised slightly and there's more information coming, I suspect. Talk us through what that means. Do I need a special machine if I wanted to partake in this? How easy is this to do?
Yeah. So basically, our blockchain provides different ways to contribute to the network. One is to mine different shards, which we don't have any, for example, and the miners can just mine those directly without restriction.
Okay.
Is the root chain, which is to provide security of the network. And so with this, so the root chain security is critical to the system, and the Guardian plan is try to enhance the security of the root chain. So that the basic idea is that we propose an algorithm called proof of stake work, which basic idea is to stake the tokens before mining. And so when the user stake the tokens, it can increase the difficulties and prevent being attacked. However, so we want to put this kind of barriers on this top of the root chain, and then they're able to be able to have higher this staking bars, so that this will be able to filter out a lot of like malicious attackers.
Right.
And that's why we call this Guardian plan, so how to call everybody to, if people would like to contribute to the network with their tokens, and this is one way. And in addition, we will provide a hash power to mine the network, so that as a token holder, it doesn't need to have the use their, for example, buy machine or rent hash power by themselves.
Okay, so there's some real benefits for those who want to contribute to this in terms of supporting the root chain. Essentially, you'll want people to protect and guard the root chain's integrity, especially with regard to security. And in doing so, you're going to reward them and incentivize them. So let's talk about that. So you have two main area people, the guardians themselves and the voters. So let's start with the guardians. What's the benefit for them, Key, if they partook in this, if they were participants in supporting and protecting that root chain?
So yeah, guardians will be basically will be like more like for example, to join in this, like for example, we have this design this the guardian list, and to like so be elected into the list by receiving the votes from community members, and they will also have response to educate people what the technology is and how this can improve the security network. So because like education of technology, I feel is one key missing part in blockchain area. So this is one major contribution the guardians can do.
Right.
Yeah. This is basically how currently we work.
Got it. So to maintain oneself as a guardian, let's say someone was a guardian, voters need to support them. So can you tell us how important the voters are to upholding the integrity of the Guardian plan?
Yeah, the voters will basically understand what the guardians, what they are doing, and what's their advantages and what is their mission, and then we decide who the guardian, the voter want to support, and then maybe also have maybe different online, offline like interactions with these guardians, and also the guardians, since we will have true mining and have block rewards, and this will be distributed to both guardians and also voters, proportional to their votes.
Right. Okay, so you're basically going to reward all parties that are involved in the plan itself. It's not just the guardians or the validators that are going to be rewarded, but it's also those participants who have a voice or contribute their voice in their vote. So I think that's good to know, because you're not excluding them. When will more information be released, Key, about this whole Guardian plan?
We will quickly. Actually, we already have this this voting. I was staking in flight. Now people can stake their tokens and get corresponding votes. And then the next step is to have open this open channel. And then we are currently receiving the applications from Guardians. We have received a lot of interest. And so once we collect some enough a list, then we will publish all the details on the website so that the users now can start to vote based on their stake, number of stake to the event.
I see. So how many Guardians are there planned to be? Is it a finite number?
No, it's not a finite number. It can be a number of the Guardians, but we will select our top 50 Guardians.
Okay.
And then so we will have a dynamic list of these Guardians according to their number of votes and the number of their, for example, expected number of the tokens that can be received from the mining event.
Right. Okay. So we'll see that list unfold. Will it all be transparent of those participants, those Guardians, soon?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we'll look forward to that. So thanks for the update there. Now, just lastly, I wanted to talk to you more on the partners. You know, I like to try and get a bit more out of you. So you've mentioned that things are coming. There's a big pipeline, arguably, of announcements to come this year. And you've mentioned some big names soon with regard to, post MainNet. So let's explore this a little bit more, Keith. Come on, cough it up. What are some of the things you can tell us with regard to partnerships, just in general?
Actually, partnerships. Actually, we have, for example, build a lot of partnerships, both in terms of, for example, data and also financial services. So actually, we want to make this whole ecosystem to more complete. So, for example, we have collaborated with KMS Chain that they are using zero privacy technology to protect the application users, for example, private key. And so with the collaborations, we are able to help them to protect these privacies. And also, we are collaborating with Big Tape, which they are using blockchain technology in supply chain, and they use this kind of way to monitoring all those the goods and also environment, and also to counter those counterfeit, those fake things. So I think this is some partnerships that will help to, for example, make our ecosystem much better.
Right. So there's two key partners that you've mentioned. Will more partnerships be emerging? That's the point I'm making. Will we see more key aspects of these collaborations emerge soon?
Yeah. That's these two, just two examples. Definitely, we have partners, and then there's on pipeline, and but still a lot of things in the development stage and research stage. So once our mainnet launch, then we will be able to demonstrate our network to them directly, and then a lot of this this development will be revealed soon.
Got it. It's quite amazing actually how the kind of community you've built, given that you haven't even released your mainnet yet. I mean, a lot of people talk about Quarkchain. I did want to also ask you this directly. Now, some people in the ecosystem, it always happens for everyone. Some have suggested, in the beginning that, perhaps Quarkchain's not going to make it. Perhaps they aren't, necessarily one of those mainstay infrastructural technologies. What do you say to those people who really question the integrity of Quarkchain? What do you say to those people who suggest that perhaps you're a lesser quality? What would you like to say in that final statement to really bolster confidence in the representatives, the supporters, the people who've built everything right from the ground up, including yourself?
So I feel Rome was not built in one day. And for example, even Bitcoin, Ethereum, there are a lot of challenges in the early stage. Right now, I feel even like every day, probably there's a person said Bitcoin will die. And so this is how the reality it is. It definitely have some supporters that have different people who don't believe in these technologies. Even like Ethereum, still a lot of people challenge them. But I think it's good because like as these technologies become more and more people be aware of what they are doing and what are the impact they can, and then there will be more awareness, and then there will be potentially more people will come and then join the ecosystem to grow it. And so I feel we are also welcome to receive any like constructive criticisms and help improve our not only technologies but also ecosystems. Then we will also look like for those public comments that we feel like they don't have make any they are not sound. Then we just using our mainnet and also our progress to demonstrate what we can and do, because like make too much argument doesn't help to our city.
Got it. Right. So what you're saying really is proof is going to be in the pudding for you, Key. You're going to prove it with your mainnet and go beyond that. Because at the end of the day, it's what we can see. It's what's evidenced in front of us, from code right through to enterprise partnerships. You're going to bring that. I really want to catch up with you in the future as well, as you post mainnet as well, so we can discuss how that's unfolding. But until then, thanks very much for your time. It's allowed us to have more of an insight into what you've been doing lately. Wish you all the very best for the mainnet, and we'll talk hopefully, if you'll have me again, after that. So thanks for that, Ki Chao. You are the CEO of Quarkchain, and you're certainly leading out one of the blockchains that are in top discussions right now around the blockchain domain. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Brad.